And a pleasant good afternoon to you, everyone. Hope everyone is doing okay on this Saturday afternoon. My name is Keith Williams. Welcome to OBS Talk Show Presents. And today we will be presenting some hot topics that recently made the news. We'll go through some local news, some state news, and probably some national news that hit the headlines. So first of all, we will start with the local news. So what I'm going to do is share my screen. Okay, so right here is like the biggest right here is like the biggest piece of news that's going on here. This blog right here was written by Donald Watkins. He's a well-renowned activist and blogger, and he had presented a lot of commentary on news especially from a local level to on the state level as well. So one of the pieces that he wrote was the fact that Birmingham is still dealing with his historic rate of homicides. As you may know, 2 years ago in 2020, the city of Birmingham had tied for the record of homicides, in the city. And in 2021, the city had superseded, or they have broke the record for a number of homicides. I think the record was 122 that was tied in 2020. And last year it went to 125. And now, as we look at the statistics, the recent statistic that was brought out by the Birmingham Police Department, we're still seeing homicide increase close to 30% than it was last year. We already, if not over the 120 mark, already, and we still have a month left before the year is out. It's kind of hard to say whether or not Birmingham will actually either break the record again or they're going to exceed the record. But here, Donald Watkins is weighing in on this matter in an editorial opinion blog that was published yesterday. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper in this and to find out why the title is what it is. He's saying that Birmingham is dying, and we want to know his opinion on this because he has been well renowned for his straightforward and sometimes harsh and blunt opinions about some of the decisions, that has been made in some of the news that's been happening. And for the most part, he has been spot on. So we're going to look at that here real quick. He said he wasn't going to mention anything about this during the week of the Magic City Classic. He was going to wait until afterwards to, really, discuss anything. But fortunately, there has been no major incidents during the Magic City Classic, which is great. By the way, one of the pieces of news, related to that is that the presidents of Alabama State and Alabama A&M decided to renew the contract to host the Magic City Classic. The game between the two schools will remain in Legion Field for another 4 years. So that is good news for the city of Birmingham because the city of Birmingham owns Legion Field, which is a 71,000 plus stadium, versus Protected Stadium, which is roughly around 45,000. The city does not own Protected Stadium. So, any sales like ticket sales and concessions and all of that goes on there at Protective Stadium, the city will not see a dime of that. Neither is the hotels and restaurants that are in the vicinity of that area, because that area is controlled by the BJCC authority, which of course is an Alabama public corporation that was established by the state legislature in 1974. So that area that's surrounding the BJCC, City of Birmingham does not get a dime from that. The only impact that it will make is outside of that area. Also, too, there would be no room for parking, and of course, no tailgating. So Magic City Classic, if it was moved to protect the stadium, would not be really effective. And from my understanding, based on a lot of social media posts, a lot of people will probably boycott the Magic City Classic if it was moved to protect the stadium. But fortunately, Magic City Classic will remain at Legion Field, where the city owns and has almost 1.5 times more seats than it is at Protected Stadium. You don't have to worry about parking, but there's plenty of parking, and there's plenty of spots for tailgating, which accounts a significant portion of the economic impact that comes to the city of Birmingham through the Magic City Classic football game, and of course all of the other activities that are surrounded for that entire week. It's roughly estimated that the city economic impact is between $25 and $30 million. So that's a significant chunk of the city's budget. And should they lose that to protect the stadium, that's really going to put a dent in their budget. So it's good news that the presidents of Alabama State and Alabama A&M decided to keep the Magic City Classic at Legion Field for another 4 years, which was recently passed by the city council. So kudos for the city for actually listening to the people for a change and demand that the classic remain at Legion Field. I just want to bring that out because Mr. Watkins here in this article, kind of mentioned that a little bit. So, and, going on now to the major story in the city of Birmingham is the fact that Birmingham, crime-wise, is dying. Why did he say that Birmingham, is dying? For starters, he noticed, and this is no given, that Birmingham population had dwindled, over the years. We lost over 12,000 people in the last census. And that was due to, various reasons. Of course, crime is one of them. And another thing is that many young people are actually moving elsewhere because they don't see a lot of opportunities, for them, job-wise. Education on the college level, is pretty good. UAB has, and Sanford, a great academic program. They have great academic collegiate programs there. But as far as the city school system is concerned, it's kind of up in the air right now. We do know that there has been some improvements in the city school system in which there's a lot less failing schools that are on the failing school list this year than it was last year. So there have been some progress there. But I am concerned that the present school board is becoming more and more a champion for charter schools, which of course has been a major issue in the city of Birmingham in the last 5 years. That we're not sure if we do know that the majority of the school board members are charter school centric. And so when we talk about school choice, public schools are often left out of the equation. And that's because they are not adequately funded, by the state. So a lot of their funding comes from the state, and the federal government. And of course, with a lot of, African American communities, dollars for public education is not as adequate as those as suburban or rural schools, for example. So that's been a major problem. Another thing that Watkins see is that there's been what he calls a gross institutional mismanagement by city government officials. He feels there's been a lot of mismanagement of operations and sometimes resources. And I kind of agree with that. In recent months, we have seen a whole lot of entertainment ventures, a whole lot of parties, sporting events, giveaways that was done by the mayor and city council. And we're still dealing with some major issues. Obviously, crime is one of them. We have crumbling infrastructure. There are some areas in the city that are dealing with, some people call it food desert, food insecurities, food apartheid, however you want to name it. People are having a tough time having access to quality groceries. That's another thing. Economic activity is kind of slim to none. In most of these communities, there's not a lot of businesses in some areas, particularly in the northern and western parts of the city of Birmingham. Whereas downtown is booming, eastern side of town is booming, and you got 5 Point South, that's booming. You got Glen Iris, just to name a few. But areas like Arlington West End, Titusville, Collegeville, Smithfield, not really seeing a whole lot as far as economic activity is concerned. Okay, that there are some schools that are on the state's failing list, but not as much as it was, last year. So again, there was some, improvement, in that, particularly in response to a lack of quality leadership, stewardship over resources, in public schools is what he says is part of the reason why some public schools are continue to be on the failing list. And also we have to consider that we just got out of a pandemic. And so the quality of education has greatly suffered in the last 2 years, and we're just starting to play catch up, with that. And of course, he mentioned that violent crime, of course, is skyrocketing. And I mentioned in their latest report that crime is still up close to about 30% increase in what it was last year. And a lot of people are seeing that the number of homicides might exceed last year's numbers. Again, no one is having a conversation about that. No one's really know what the Birmingham Police Department is actually doing in terms of leadership, stewardship, and operation. I also want to point out too that this so-called Citizen Police Task Force that was started by Whiffen, we have not heard anything since he appointed 5 people. He appointed 5 people as part of this, I don't know what you call it, task force or advisory board or whatever you want to call it. He chosen 5 people early this year, and they have not met since that group was started. And I clearly think that it was just smoke and mirrors to say, okay, we got this, we got this task force or a group advisory body, consisting of citizens of the city of Birmingham that will hold the police department accountable. When most of all, they're not average people like you and I. Certainly not from the grassroots community or what we call common folk. It's pretty much people that have been supportive of this particular leadership of the ones that have been appointed, and they have not met since the time that they was appointed. So I think it was smoke and mirrors. As a matter of fact, the Public Safety Task Force, that was created, uh, they made a lot of good recommendations, but hardly any of those recommendations have been put forth an effort by the leadership of the city of Birmingham. And that's what you got. You got what you got because none of these things have been implemented. So he goes on to say that uh, that violent crime is running rapid. Of course, we know that, and there has not been an effective solution that has been implemented by the city of Birmingham, despite the last 10 years where the grassroots community had actually presented plans and it was blocked. It was blocked by the city on numerous occasions, including the lack of implementation of recommendations that was given by the Public Safety Task Force that was started sometime last year. Hardly any of those things have not been implemented either, except the advisory group, that was started, which have not met since its inception. And so what we're dealing with is no concrete solutions have ever been implemented by city officials. And so with that, we're beginning to see violent crime, gun violence continue to increase, and rightfully so. Citizens are greatly concerned. So in terms of this issue, Watkins called, this, episode, the Titanic, just waiting to sink, waiting to be struck by it. So he basically said that this situation is kind of like the Titanic hitting an iceberg and it's sinking fast. Some of the things that we talked about here, locally, of course, was a decline in population. At one time, the population of Birmingham was 340,000. Today, the population is a little under 198,000. In 1960, about 40% of Birmingham was African American. Today, it is close to 72%. In 1960, whites in Birmingham numbered over 205,000 people, or 60.3% of the city's population. Today is only 24.6%. Whites in Birmingham started their white flight in the 60s in response to Dr. Martin Luther King's civil rights movement. And we found that those numbers had dropped significantly. They're barely haven't reached 49,000, as of today. And again, those are for various reasons. We saw an increased African American presence in the city of Birmingham, and so with segregation still intact in 1960, many white people have left, and they created all these different suburbs, like Hoover, Vestavia Hills, Homewood, Pelham, Alabaster, things of that nature. Also, too, one of the problems that he see on here is that he believes that Birmingham City schools are failing their students. Currently, the school district has $378 million, in their budget. That's their budget. With 42 public schools that serves 22,000 students. 99% of those students are Black. 13 or 31% of the students of the schools are on the State Department of Education's failing school list. So 31% of the 42 schools are on the failing list. Again, that is a slight improvement, of last year, to where last year nearly half of the schools in the city of Birmingham was on the failing list. So that's an improvement. Now, two of the schools on the list of failed schools, Huffman and Woodlawn High Schools, are magnet schools. A magnet school is a public school with specialized courses that are not available at other schools. These schools are supposed to attract the best and brightest students in the school system. So how in the world did these two magnet high schools end up on the list of failed Birmingham City schools is beyond comprehension. I agree. So if you have a school that's has specialized curriculum that's separate from other schools, and that these schools attract the brightest, scholars, I wondered that too. How do they end up on the failing school list? Somebody definitely has some explaining to do. Also, too, Birmingham City students have a reading proficiency level of 24%. The state average is 45%, and have a math proficiency of 21%, and with the state average of 47%. So math and reading, their percentages are well below the state average. And I agree with Mr. Watkins. This is totally, unacceptable, and that Birmingham City needs to be held accountable, for that. According to Watkins, Birmingham is ranked as one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Now, this is coming from so there's an article on here. Let me see. Not going to click on it, but he has an article, on here, on this blog, his website, that ranks 54 of the top 54 of the most dangerous cities in the United States. And according to this article, he stated that Birmingham is one of 5 U.S. cities on the deadliest list or dangerous list of cities. As of September 2020, Birmingham was leading a surge in the nation's violent crime. The city's murder rate increased by 40%, from 73 murders by September 2021 to 102 murders by September 2022. This is September, but now we're looking at November, and the most recent numbers, we are still close to about 30% increase in homicide. In 2021, 132 people were murdered in Birmingham. This number is expected to exceed by the end of 2022. So right now, we are definitely on track to either matching this number or exceeding this number. And this is one of the reasons. So, the failing schools, the lack of economic opportunities, and of course, crime is, of course, three other reasons, among others, is why we're having a decrease in population in the city of Birmingham. Now, recently, Mayor Randall Woodfin went to Washington asking Congress for help. Mayor Randall Woodfin did not seek additional funds to fight the surge in violent crime, in his city, which is on its way to become the murder capital of the world. Instead, Woodfin pleaded with Congress to decriminalize the sale and possession of marijuana in Birmingham and the rest of America. This was Woodfin's answer to a drastic increase in murders in the city, making it easier for residents to get high from smoking weed. I'm just reading what Donald Watkins, is saying. So, yeah, that is, and I kind of agree with that. Instead of asking the federal government for help, and resources in combating violent crime, he's pleading with them to criminalize, marijuana, which right now is not a priority right now. So I kind of agree with that. That is definitely not, a priority. And so, again, that is kind of like some of the main issues here in the city of Birmingham that I have pointed out, today. And of course, we will have another, segment to where, we will continue to talk about some of the local issues. So those are hot topics today. So instead, we're dealing with the fact that, there's been a lot of entertainment things, a lot of sporting events, a lot of giveaways, and we're still having these various problems in the city of Birmingham, which I have already pointed out. Yet, local officials are not really doing anything to, deal with those issues. But again, you guys voted for them. So according to the article, he says you got what you deserve. And I agree. So what's your opinion? After you watch this segment, I invite you to give your comments. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you 2 weeks from today, right here on Talk Show Present.